later. In three, two, one. Hey guys, welcome into the Stinkin Truth podcast. Yours truly, in between flights here in Orlando, Florida. Actually, I'm not in between flights. I'm going to be in Orlando for a couple of days before I go to Tampa to call the game in Tampa. I've got who do I have in Tampa? Oh, I've got Atlanta in Tampa. Doesn't take me long. Anyhow, but just coming off a game in Houston. Houston defeats the New Orleans Saints, and Mike, I'm telling you what a freaking I'm really excited about the Houston Texans. They're something. They are absolutely something.
Yeah, this was your first. Well, you've been. Was this your second gamer with them or first game?
First game with Houston for our second game with Houston. Excuse me. First game with the Saints.
Okay, so now you've had a chance to see DeMeco Ryans, C.J. Stroud a couple of times. What is DeMeco Ryans building here? Can you explain the DeMeco Ryans culture? Because he's the hottest name out there right now among the first-time coaches, really doing well.
Yeah, it's really interesting sitting back and talking to guys. Talk to Will Anderson Jr., who's a third overall pick out of Alabama, just a bright, great kid, lights up a room. And he absolutely wrecks. I mean, he wrecks practices. He wrecks shit. I mean, it's unbelievable, this kid. And just like I said, $1 million smile, great kid. Had a blast talking to him. But he's like, when they drafted me, I had 3 or 4 guys from the team reach out to me, welcoming me to the team. Like guys like veteran players that have been there before, like Jerry Hughes, reaches out and says, "Hey man, welcome to the team." J.J. Watt, legendary Houston Texan, welcome to this team. Let me help you out with your pass rush. Let me help you out with the stuff that that you're going to need to do. Like all these guys that have come out and essentially welcomed them. And then when they got there as draft picks and as free agents and as college players and, like I said, free agent players as well, they were like, "Hey man, you're not here by happenstance. You've been handpicked because of not only your playing ability, but the kind of person you are, the kind of guy that we want within this organization." So they have really been able to sell that, and they've really been able to sell the energy. And it was really interesting. Practice matters. And talking to several guys about just the way they practice, and I'm talking about guys on the team, guys on the coaching staff, guys, just people around the organization. And talking to Will Anderson about practice, he was like, "This practice reminds me of practice at Alabama. Like we legit go after each other on Wednesday. We put our pads on, like we put shoulder pad, we put full pads on, and we are getting after each other. Then we cut it down on Friday, and and getting shells and stuff. But it's like we're practicing hard. This is like being at Alabama. It is like Nick Saban. Like we go and we're flying around and we're doing things the right way, and we're practicing at a tempo that we're trying to make. And this is kind of how I practiced, and we practiced in Washington or Joe Gibbs. But the way we practiced with Mike Shanahan in Denver was like, we want to practice so fast that when we get on the field on Sunday, it feels like it's slower than what we did in practice. And I think those are the kind of things that resonate. And then DeMeco is just a positive, let's go out here, fly around and do those things. And he'll challenge his team to play the game the right way. And that's what they're doing. On top of that, their quarterback is interesting. Like this kid is got, I don't care what he tested in the freaking Wonderlic or whatever test, whatever stupid test that is. This kid understands football. He's articulate, he's smart, and he's thoughtful. And it's interesting because you hear this all the time. Hell, we hear it in Denver every day, and it makes you roll your eyes. The cliche baloney that's been memorized, by Russell Wilson and some of the other guys. It just is like there's no answer to it. And then I ask him a question, and he'll be like, "Wow, it's a really good question." And then he'll go, "Okay, let me explain it to you." And he'll get into this deep conversation, this football conversation that is not just, hey man, we got to take care of the ball in the red zone and we got to blah 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 blah. I mean, it's not a bunch of bullshit. It's real, and I appreciate because he's thoughtful. I was like, hey man, let me ask you a question. Kind of describe a play like just from a verbiage standpoint, the difference between Ohio State and between the Texans. And he's like, ooh, that's a great question because he goes, there's a lot of similarities. I was like, okay, well, give them to me. And he goes, let me think. And he's like, no, that one's not complicated enough. No, that one's too easy. No, and he goes through in his catalog in his mind, like, no, 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 no. Okay, I got one. And he goes through it and he goes, but it's a lot similar to this, from what we're doing now. So there's some carryover. And then he goes, that, he spits out a play. And I I was just like, he really was thought he could just spit out anything, what do I know? Um, so I thought that was a really cool thing. He said, hey man, my coach sometimes D'Amico gets a little pissed at me because if it's not perfect, I want to run the rep again in practice. But not only do I want to run the rep again, I'll bring the same guys. Like so, Robert Woods may run 3 routes in a row, and he's supposed to come out and go, no, I need Robert back in here for this one. And D'Amico's like, man, we need to move on. We need to get. No, I don't want to leave this. I didn't do this right. And so he's this perfectionist. Um, he's perfectionist. He's just a grinder. He's just got that ability. And I will tell you the other thing that's interesting. So I'm talking to Bill Lazor, longtime NFL assistant, and you're gonna love this because Mike, I know how you are about the draft, and everybody talks about the quarterback and this, and you got to get the quarterback, and any quarterback will do, and da 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 da. And so Bill said, we spend a lot of time in the draft room, a lot of time looking at these quarterbacks. And he said, the key is not getting the best college quarterback. The key is getting the best NFL quarterback. And there's a big difference. And it was a real thoughtful, idea for me because he was like, there's a lot of things that you do in the college game that just flat don't transfer. And you can be great and you can light stuff up in college, but it just doesn't transfer. Now, let me give you an example, just so you know. CJ Stroud, if I went through all the film in the NFL that I've watched, and I've watched a ton this year, I watch a ton every year. CJ Stroud spends as much time under center as any quarterback in the National Football League. And I think one of the really cool things when you start talking about the time spent under center is that's where your footwork has got to be perfect. And as our friend Joel Klatt always says, hey, the timing of the offense is kept in the feet of the quarterback. And when your feet are on rhythm, when your feet are perfect, that's when you're going to throw it with accuracy and on time. And I would say you can't be accurate if your feet aren't on time. If you're not on time, you cannot be accurate. It's just impossible. And so your feet have to be on time to create accuracy in the passing game. And one of the issues in today's game with all the kids who come out of college is they've all done nothing but prepare or all done nothing but play in these freaking 7-on-7 shotgun leagues. And it creates lazy foot mechanics and it doesn't time your feet up to the throw. So CJ has been under center since he was a little kid, Pop Warner. He has spent all this time under center, spent a bunch of time under center at Ohio State because Ryan Day believes it's important. And like I said, I don't know that I've seen anybody be under center more than CJ Stroud. And this is exactly why CJ Stroud, by far, to me, is the best one of these rookie quarterbacks. And it's not close.
Is there anything else that they told you that they look for in college quarterbacks, and more importantly, what translates to the NFL beyond the footwork? Was it just simply that?
Winning from the pocket.
Winning from the pocket. Yeah.
Not running to run, but running to throw. Running within the confines of the pocket, manipulating the pocket poise. And the thought process is, hey, listen, man, when you break the pocket and do all that stuff, one, you got to be able to throw on time, accurately. But he goes, bottom line is if your escape mechanism, it's the same thing I tell you all the time. If your default mechanism is from the neck down, you're not going to last. It's got to be from the neck up. So if you escape the pocket, you escape the pocket to throw it, not to run it. And occasionally you're going to have to run it, right? Occasionally you're going to have to do that. But it's like it doesn't translate to the NFL. Running around and doing that for the most part does not translate. And you can look at now Lamar, probably a little bit different, but he hasn't won a
Mhm.
championship. But probably a little bit different because the guy is so that guy's it's like a varsity kid playing with JV kids. I mean, he's that much of a freak show. But even look to Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. So like they're deciding whether he has season-ending shoulder surgery right now. It doesn't translate.
On the Saints, you've always told this to me that anytime you see a quarterback back there slinging it more than 40 times, never mind 50, that is
Mhm.
just a bad recipe to win. And in a 20-13 game, you had Derek Carr throwing the ball 50 times.
Yeah, yeah. I Mike, I don't know. Pete Carmichael, their offensive coordinator, is under a lot of heat, and rightfully so. And I just don't know. Watching them, it's something that you and I talk about all the time. The difference between calling plays and calling an offense.
Mhm.
And you've got a running back in Alvin Kamara who he's so fluid, and he is like I met with him. He's super smart. He's a photographic memory guy. Like the guy is unbelievable. And you don't realize he's 5'10", 215. Like he's a thick cat, man. And he's averaging close to 5 yards a carry. And there's two things, I guess. One, I'm going to lean on that. Two, how do you marry that to big plays in the passing game? And I want like everything that we run, I want some adjunct pass play off that looks identical. And I don't know that they've done a great job of marrying that running game and that running back to their passing game. And it just looked like, hey, let's run it, and now let's get in empty, and then let's run it, and now let's get in 3-by-1. And it never felt like you're calling an offense. It just felt like you're calling plays and hoping something hits. And um, even when I was calling the game, I couldn't put my finger on it. But as I've sat back on the plane and thought about it, that's kind of what I came away with. Is it just never felt like there was any rhythm to what we were doing. It just felt like we're just calling plays for the sake of calling plays, and that's where I just kind of felt a little bit strange about the Saints in general.
So after starting 2-0, they've lost 3 of their last 4. And being around the team this weekend, do you feel like this is a tailspin that could continue, or do you feel like this is a
No,
team that still should be able to figure it out, especially as Derek Carr gets
right.
more comfortable?
Well, I think Derek Carr's coming off a shoulder surgery, so or shoulder injury from Green Bay where he missed that time. Still not 100% healthy. And then I think there's a couple other things that you have to look at. I think obviously Kamara missed the first couple games of the season. They're going to get Jamal Williams back eventually here, right? They signed him as a free agent, so they'll have that kind of 1-2 punch in that backfield. Even though Miller, their rookie running back, is playing pretty well right now. Um, but this week, like last week against New England, their offensive line was together for the most part for the first time. Think about this. They have 4 starters on their offensive line that are all first rounders, and their center, McCoy, was like let me see, he was a second rounder, and I think he was maybe low 30s. Hold on for a second. I've got it. I got it right here. I'll get my sheets.
Look at that chart.
Uh Yeah, he was a second rounder. I want to say he was I don't know, he's like 36 taken or something like that. I don't know. I don't have that written down. But um he was a high round draft pick himself, and that's where they've invested a ton of money. And so, it's those guys have to show up. Now, with that said, you got to understand that they roll into that game, and um, they roll in that game. The whole right side of their offensive line, Andrews Pete is injured. so they bring up Max Garcia, former Denver Bronco, to play left guard, and left guard, and they run out at left tackle. They decide to put James Hurst, and they bench Trevor Penning. So you got two backups at the left side, right? And then Ryan Ramczyk gets hurt, and they've got to move Cesar Ruiz, their right guard, out to right tackle, and they've got to move in Nick Saldivari into the right guard spot, and James Hurst gets hurt, and so they take him out, and they have to move in Trevor Penning back in there. So of their five starting offensive linemen, they had four guys or three guys in different positions, and had I think rotated five different guys in there. So that can explain some of the inconsistencies on the offensive side of the ball. And remember, that's where they put a bunch of money in there. Still coming back, still working back into form is Michael Thomas. He looks good, but there's still some, from a connection standpoint, you're still building that chemistry. So there's a lot of things offensively that I think are going on right now. The other thing is you don't really have a middle of the field threat tight end. Like I don't look at Taysom Hill as that guy, right? He's more of a gadget, run everything guy. And Jimmy Graham is old, and Foster Moreau. So there's still something missing in the middle of the field when you talk about that stuff.
Well, they definitely have a schedule coming up that at least gives them the chance to get back and on a bit of a roll. They got the Jaguars at home, then they're at the Colts, home against the Bears, at the Vikings, at the Falcons. So there's definitely some winnable games out there in a schedule that's not too daunting, especially in that division.
Yeah, I think I think the Saints are going to be fine defensively. All three levels of their defense is outstanding. They're going to make plays. They're going to create turnovers. They'll rush the quarterback. Granderson on the edge is playing really well. Obviously, Demario Davis is a freak show. They've got they've both safeties in May, and they've got Lattimore at the corner. They've got the Honey Badger Matthew at the other safety. They're a legit defense. I think they're going to win a lot of games, and I won't be surprised if eventually they overtake Tampa to win that NFC South.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Good leftovers.
All right. Excellent leftovers. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast, we thank you guys so much. Be well, and next time I won't be doing this from the United Club here.
Get your library voice on. Get your library voice.
I know. All right. Later. There's other people trying to work. I feel kind of bad. Anyhow, later.
Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.